has always maintained an unwavering commitment to democracy and the preservation of national unity and political safety and stability. Kuwait was the first regional country that drafted a constitution, thus turning into a constitutional state and placing it on the map of states that embrace democracy and liberties. Safeguard status of His Highness the Emir and Kuwait's allegiance to the Al Sabah family as rulers of the country over 300 years ago on the basis of shura or consultation paved the way for the enactment of the Kuwaiti constitution that completely affected diverse aspects of the Kuwaitis' lives. The sixth article of the Kuwaiti constitution states, "The system of government in Kuwait shall be democratic, under which sovereignty resides in the people, the source of all powers." The country embraced this stipulation from early on and continued on this path.
According to the constitution, the form of political regime or system, Kuwait is a monarchy, hereditary monarchy, a traditional system. But the founding fathers chose a mixture of a presidential and parliamentary system for the division of power, division of authorities. You've got legislative branch, you've got executive branch, and you've got the judicial branch. The head of this, the balancer of everything, is the Emir. He has authority in the three branches. So in terms of resolving this issue or that issue, the Emir has vested authority to do what he thinks is right. That's why the founding father 50 years ago thought, in case of any disagreement, any dispute, any misunderstanding, and a political issue, not legal issue. The legal issue, there is a constitution court, which we have, thanks goodness. Yeah. They can verify things legally, but in terms of misunderstanding, dispute, and political issues, the Emir is arbitrator. Emir is the judge, is the referee. What he does, what he has in mind, he can envision things that we cannot, as people, as citizens, be aware of or know about. So therefore, my understanding is the Emir is the sole embodiment of three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial.
As democracy was adopted early in Kuwait's history, it has now developed into a rich and strong practice. Accordingly, one of the main pillars of democracy is the election and voting process, whereby the citizens can elect a government to represent them and be an advocate for their will and needs. And to complete the image of democracy in Kuwait, the parliament voted to give women the right to vote and to run for office on May 17, 2005. The motion passed with 35 votes for and 23 against for the first time in Kuwait's history.
Regarding the women's right in the region and in Kuwait, after the right were granted in 2005, actually it's very good for Kuwait, because we are a party and we signed a CEDAW convention that requires the government to eliminate any form of discrimination against women. Having women in the political system, it's about the right of representation, the right to share, to decide, and with the government, with the parliament. It's about to be in the room at the time of decision making. So it's their right to be there, actually. And the government should eliminate any act against women. It's their obligations by CEDAW and by the Kuwaiti constitution that requires that the people are equal, and by CEDAW it's mentioned that the government should eliminate any discrimination or any discriminatory behavior against any women regarding like the law in any entities, by persons, by organization, whatever. It should be eliminated actually.
Kuwait's electoral laws and policies have evolved and developed throughout the years to seed out all the negative traits and further improve and make the whole process more efficient. Elections in Kuwait are held for both the National Assembly or Majlis al-Ummah and for the municipality. Kuwait's constitution calls for elections to the unicameral National Assembly at a maximum interval of 4 years. However, they may be held earlier if the Emir exercises his constitutional power to dissolve the parliament. Article 51 of the Kuwaiti Constitution asserts that the legislative power is vested in the Emir and the National Assembly in the manner specified by the Constitution. Moreover, Chapter 3 of the Constitution deals with the Parliament and begins with Article 79, which states that no law may be promulgated unless it has been passed by the National Assembly and sanctioned by the Emir. Article 80, meanwhile, deals with the election and ministerial members and says that the National Assembly is composed of 50 members elected directly by universal suffrage and secret ballot, in accordance with the provision prescribed by the electoral law.
Kuwait political history based on migration. Kuwait political history based on the will of the people. The ruler was chosen indirectly by the people. They gave the approval for the new ruler, for the new president, head of state. Through their approval, their agreement, their spiritual consentment. Therefore, people of Kuwait had lived by a constitution without having a legal constitution.
Kuwait was previously divided into 10 electoral districts in the National Assembly elections from their inception in 1963 up until 1975. Each district elected 5 deputies to the Assembly. Before the 1981 elections, the government redistricted Kuwait, creating a system of 25 districts. Each of the 25 districts elected 2 members to the National Assembly for a total of 50 elected members. Additional members sit as appointed members of the cabinet. Each voter also could cast ballots for 2 candidates, though it was also possible to vote for only 1 candidate. In each district, the candidates who won the largest and second largest number of votes earned seats in the National Assembly. However, in 2006, the National Assembly passed legislation again, but this time to divide Kuwait into 5 electoral districts only, which was a major issue in the preceding election campaign. The voter could cast votes for 4 candidates, and in each district, the highest 10 candidates earned seats. In June last year, the Constitutional Court nullified the election process and scrapped the parliament that was elected in February 2012. A few months later, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmed al-Jaber al-Sabah issued a decree to amend the electoral law under a clause in the Constitution that gives the Emir the right to issue laws when Parliament is absent or dissolved, in the hope of bringing a better outcome. A decree of Law Number 20 of 2012 was published, amending Law Number 42 of 2006 regarding the number of votes each eligible voter could cast. The amendment specifies that every voter has the right to elect only 1 candidate in each of the 5 constituencies, and contrary to that, the ballot paper would be disqualified, therefore reducing the number of votes each voter can cast from 4 to 1. The government said the new rules brought Kuwait's system in line with voting systems used elsewhere in the world. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah al-Ahmed al-Jaber al-Sabah, who has ruled Kuwait since 2006, said the changes were aimed at ensuring security and stability after policymaking stalled in the previous parliament. His Highness the Emir said the decree amending the former electoral law was inevitable in light of the outcome of the previous 3 elections. His Highness also said he issued the decree to amend the electoral law based on his national duty and constitutional right, stated clearly by the Constitutional Court rulings.
The Emir has the power to pass Emiri decrees during the absence of the Parliament, and he has the widest power really to pass any laws and as they sees fit. This is really proven, in the Constitutional Court's rulings, that the Emir has such power, and he can pass the single vote and also the KAC privatization or any matter that the Emir can see fit. This power, however, is really subject to the acceptance of the Parliament when it is consumed or when it is really elected, and in the first parliamentary session they should either approve or disapprove of those decrees.
Furthermore, His Highness said it was necessary to address the defects and negativities of the electoral law, pointing out that there were different constitutional means to challenge the decree. His Highness explained that the Constitution has enshrined the right to challenge necessity decrees before the reputable, independent, and fair Constitutional Court, stressing that he will abide by the Constitutional Court's verdict, whatever it entailed. His Highness the Emir even hailed the move by some people to challenge the decree before the Constitutional Court, lauding this civilized behavior and denouncing his complete abidance by the court's ruling if it came contrary to his assessment. The latest figures released indicate that up to 439,715 citizens are eligible to vote in the upcoming parliamentary elections, due to be held on the single-vote basis to choose members of the 50-seat National Assembly for the 14th legislative term. The number of the franchise nationals in the 5 constituencies rose by 17,146, or 4.5% of the electorate, including 9,342 males and 7,804 females, as compared to that of the last elections in December 2012, when the number of the voters was 422,565. The total electorate of the 5 districts is divided into 206,096 males, or 46.87% of the eligible voters, and 233,619 females, which corresponds to 53.12% of the total voters. The 5th constituency is the largest, with 122,429 franchise citizens, or 27.86% of the total electorate. The 4th constituency is the second largest, with 113,685 voters, or 25.85% of the electorate. Then the 1st constituency with 77,245, or 17.56%. Then comes the 3rd constituency with 76,501 voters, or 17.39%. And finally, the smallest is the 2nd constituency, with the lowest number of voters at 49,755, or 11.31%.
Elections in Kuwait meet a relevantly high standard of fairness. The government does not interfere in the counting of the ballots. The Kuwaiti media, that includes a number of Arabic and English language dailies and television and radio channels, extensively cover the campaigns. Candidates enjoy a wide degree of freedom to take political standards, and the press extensively covers statements made by candidates. Moreover, they have ample opportunities to meet with voters. Advertisements can be a very effective tool in the hands of a candidate. It conveys a strong message that is motivational and energy-creating. Each candidate uses a variety of media outlets to advertise their campaigns, including posters, banners, and TV and internet ads. In Kuwait, ads are used to decorate meeting places, streets, voting sites, and other electoral headquarters. If such displays become everywhere and displayed widely by individuals, they can create an imposing and climate-building backdrop to an election. Candidates pick the best ads in the best suit to develop their identity. Each ad illustrates the orientation of every candidate and establishes a culture in favor of the candidate's platform through its association with popular culture, celebrities, and historical moments. Celebrities are also able to communicate with voters, and they tailor and design their campaigns to attract youth, elderly, women, and various segments of Kuwaiti society. For the first time in Kuwait's history, the July 2013 elections will be held during the holy fasting month of Ramadan, which will add a fresh experience to the candidates and voters. However, during this month, voters are preoccupied with spiritual and social obligations and activities, but nonetheless, the coincidence remains a good opportunity for candidates and voters to become acquainted. On the 16th of June 2013, Kuwait's Constitutional Court nullified the election process held on December 1st last year and dissolved the National Assembly. But at the same time, it upheld His Highness the Emir decree that amended the electoral law. Head of the court, five-judge panel Yusuf al-Mutawwa read out of the verdict in the Palace of Justice auditorium that was packed with journalists and lawyers. The court, whose verdicts are final, called for holding fresh elections on the basis of the single vote law. The court based its decision to scrap the assembly for the second time in a year on the basis that another Emiri decree issued in October last year to establish the National Election Committee is unconstitutional, saying there were no agency in issuing the decree. The court explained that the executive authority has the full right to issue legislation when the assembly is dissolved, and pointed out that the amended decree could not wait until the assembly came back.
Emir is the sole embodiment of three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial. And when he does things, I think it's our right. We can question it, but we cannot refuse it. Constitutionally, it's given him the right. Politically, you can dispute it.
His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah, welcomed the court's verdict, saying that it is the proof that Kuwait is a country of institutions ruled. His Highness called on all citizens to respect the verdict and abide by it, as he urged citizens to put this issue behind us and to consolidate national unity. Meanwhile, Minister of Information and Minister of State of Youth Affairs, Sheikh Salman al-Salam al-Hamoud al-Sabah, said the court's decision enhanced the durability of the democratic system that is enjoyed by Kuwait. Sheikh Salman added that Kuwait has a proud history of respecting the constitution and maintaining the rule of law.
The leadership and government of Kuwait have worked endlessly to ensure fair elections that will move the country's development forward. To further ensure full integrity of the National Assembly elections, local and international observers have been provided full access to ballot centers. Local and foreign election observers have confirmed their readiness to monitor the 2013 National Assembly elections to guarantee transparency and impartiality in line with international standards. The Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Information have made all the necessary preparations in coordination with other state bodies and NGOs to present the elections in the best way possible. First Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Interior Sheikh Ahmed Al-Hamoud Al-Jaber Al-Sabah said that the ministry had exerted all efforts to enable citizens to cast their ballots on July 27th with ease and as little inconvenience as possible, while maintaining an environment marked by freedom, calm and tranquility.
The Ministry of Interior are doing their utmost for these elections. And we know that it is difficult to obey the statutes of the either my brothers, the Kuwaitis, who are electing, or the candidates. But we are doing whatever we can to get everything smooth on this day, and we're trying our utmost for it.
In addition, Minister of Justice, Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs, Sharida Al-Ma'sharji, has formed a field team to equip schools to serve as ballot stations during the election day. The special team will be under the supervision of the Ministry of Justice, namely the Undersecretary. It groups 36 members, chaired by Nabil Al-Rabi'a and his aide Hamoud Al-Dhafiri. Hamad Al-Blushi, Uthman Al-Musa and Adel Al-Aidan will be charged with coordination and follow-up on the field with the other members of the group. A high judicial committee has also been formed to oversee Kuwait's parliamentary elections under the chairmanship of the Appeals Court President Ahmed Al-Ujail. The committee will examine complaints filed by candidates and voters, facilitate the electoral process, and organize the entry of local and foreign media, volunteers of the Kuwait Transparency Society, and civil society organizations to polling stations to monitor the process. As the polls this year coincide with the fasting month of Ramadan and forecast summer heat of over 50 degrees, all hospitals and medical clinics throughout Kuwait will be ready to treat patients and emergency cases during the balloting day. A special commission formed by the Ministry of Health has also set up makeshift medical centers at all the constituencies. Medics will be on alert at the electoral districts, equipped with 25 ambulances, along with medical and technical teams. Meanwhile, all hospitals will be prepared to deal with emergencies during the balloting, and the Special Commission is also tasked with checking the validity and safety of food that will be supplied to personnel serving at the balloting centers. Ambulances will also be used for transporting the elderly and citizens of special needs to the stations, and cases will be treated with first aid at the makeshift medical facilities, but if they require follow-up, they will be referred to hospitals. As everything seems set in place to make Elections Day a true celebration of democratic development in the state of Kuwait, the most important part lies in the hands of the citizens, who should fulfill their commitment to their country and constitution by voting for the right candidates. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah emphasized the importance of ballot casting, which is a national duty, urging all compatriots to better choose their representatives to be able to shoulder the responsibilities and achieve the aspirations, hopes, and the prominence of our dear country. His Highness called on all citizens to be positive and take part in the electoral process to choose the best, most effective, honest, and responsible person to represent them in the National Assembly. The key to democracy is the participation of the people in naming their political representatives. It is empowerment for the people taking action and becoming active members of the society. Citizens are given the opportunity and privilege to practice their constitutional rights and duties by choosing the right candidates who will represent them in the parliament. The power of voting is the power of change. It is the power of making a mark in history and voicing your opinions. While many nations around the region struggle and even fight to earn their democratic rights, Kuwaitis show the true spirit of democracy by voting in fair and honest elections. Moreover, for the first time in Kuwait's parliamentary history, the elections are held during the holy fasting month of Ramadan. Some voters are concerned about the difficulty of voting during this month, but there are advantages to voting this year. One of the advantages of this year's elections is that it is held during the summer vacation. Usually most Kuwaitis travel during the holiday, but since it is Ramadan, people prefer to stay in the country, which will therefore increase the number of voters. Furthermore, unlike previous elections, voters this time round will have the advantage of less traffic congestion during the day, because most employees and schools are on vacation, which will enable voters to easily reach their district electoral commissions. Another advantage to electing this year is that most employees and students over the age of 21 are usually occupied during the time of the elections. But since this year's election is held during the summer holiday, they will have the opportunity to vote. In addition, the holy month of Ramadan obligates voters, as well as candidates, to be on their best behavior, which will reduce the tension and create a calm and peaceful atmosphere during the electoral process. Kuwaiti citizens must exercise their electoral rights to bring about success to the democratic march, as the sole guarantor for unity of the nation and its people, as it contributes to the sustainability of the democratic system and its pillars. Your vote is your voice as a Kuwaiti citizen. It is your opportunity to be heard, to hold elected officials accountable for their decisions, and to have a say in important issues that affect your community. On election day, every vote matters.